Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. We hope you guys are all doing well out there.
Indeed, we do, and welcome back. I think we're going on Heart's Home today, right?
Yes, we're going to start with Heart's Home here. And there's several different thoughts that have been going through my mind. And, I wanted to first thank all our Patreons. We couldn't do it without you guys. And, it really makes a big difference with the support over on Patreon. Again, every video goes up on Patreon.
It does, and that way you have all three channels in the same spot so you don't have to go bouncing around. We just do about once every 3 days. We have another one going up that's Patreon only, but we go as low as we can possibly go so everybody can get in there.
Absolutely. So, I was reading the Descent of Anana, which is an old Sumerian mythology, interesting exploration of consciousness, as Inanna, this quote unquote goddess, one of the Nephilim, you could say, one of the Elohim, you could say. It all, again, as a matter of perspective. But anyway, she goes in search of a lost lover, Dumuzi, or also known as Dumuzid. And it reminded me of something I wanted to talk about, which is this reality that this is where things really can happen. This is where we get experiences that are foundational and are so important in the growth of the soul that we then, when we're out of body, we can expound on and we can grow from. So you might think, what does Inanna and this tale of following her lost lover Dumuzi down from, she literally is going from the heavens, right? Going from the stars to earth to the afterlife, or what we would call the afterlife. And what would that have in common with spirit orbs and a group of sperm? Ah, well, again, it's about getting a point across.
It is. It is. And this is a really fun one. I mean, just if we think about it and we go back and look back for 12 previous generations, you would need over 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years just for you to get here. And if you think about it, how many struggles, how many battles, how many difficulties, how much sadness, how much happiness, how many love stories, and how many expressions of hope for the future did your ancestors undergo for you to exist in this present moment? It's a blessing to be here.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point that we want to get across, is that, again, this is where things really happen. This is where you have experiences that you can learn from, and that you could literally take human lifespans, multiple human lifespans, to rework in your consciousness in every possible way to try to answer those deep questions. What if I didn't get married? What if I didn't go to college? What if I chose a different school? What if I was born to different parents? All these things that we might have going through our head at one point or another. When you look at this photo, and I think, again, some might say, well, it's just dust. Yeah. I've seen like the faces without the orbs, and many of you probably have too, in this ocean of consciousness which we live in, because we do live in an ocean of consciousness. And the reality is, when you're looking at all these different orbs around this one individual, this is kind of how it really is. I mean, consciousness is everywhere. Well, you could think of them as individual consciousnesses, a separate consciousness that is a part of the whole, or a consciousness that sees itself as separate yet is still a part of the whole. These are all drops in the ocean of consciousness. And this is I think, a pretty good representation of how densely packed it could be, depending on where we are at. But even when we're in places that we might think we're so isolated, we're never isolated. You are never isolated. You are never alone.
You know, our ancestors come to be with us, old friends. It doesn't always have to be ancestors, but they're the ones that we can call forward to help us with our struggles, because if anyone understands them and can give you guidance, it is your ancestors. But I have to share a quick story. A very dear friend of mine, she passed away, and I was given her camera to go through. And the really curious thing about it is the closer it came for her passing, with every picture she took and every picture that was taken of her, there were more and more orbs. And I just thought that was incredible. So it's like our ancestors, our friends, everyone knows, when that time is coming, they come and surround you so that you don't feel alone. And then it said, for a person's life, for like the last 2 years that they are on this planet, they begin to have certain experiences, they have certain emotions, certain things happen in their life to give them that comfort that, look, you're not going to blow out like a candle. You are not alone. We are all here to guide you and to work with you and help you to that other side.
Absolutely. I was sensing, and maybe it's just the time, and the fact that Cindy did such a lovely job with the Christmas tree. It's a small fake Christmas tree, and I didn't think it could look good, but it it looks good, and it just took me back to, I guess, different times, and maybe the thoughts of those different times, being a kid and seeing a Christmas tree, was pulling in the feelings of like aunts that are so long ago passed on. I mean, back in the 90s, so they've been gone for like 30 years. And yet I could feel them so strong, and I could hear their voices so strong. I mean, I could see their faces in my mind so clear as can be, and their tendencies and their ways and all the things about them as if it was just yesterday, as if and I don't know, do you guys get that too? I don't know if it's just the introspection that we do with the meditation that we do, that it's so easy to call this up, the remembrances of different people, and have it feel like I just left them, even though it might have been 35, 40 years ago.
As you work on your energy and when you're coming into your fullness as an empath, I know a lot of people think that they're just having these memories, but more often than not, you are tapping into that loved one's presence. You are able to feel their energy. I was just able to do a session with someone the other day, and I felt a loved one actually sit down inside of me, and then we began a conversation about her and that loved one and things that needed to be remedied, and that really helped her. But as we learn how to do this and read the energies, we can definitely tap into those who have long passed, and that's one thing you want to look for, is that specific remembrance, those visions, those memories, those emotions. It's all in the emotion, those emotions from when you were little. You bet they were here remembering and having a good time right along with you.
Absolutely. And, with the blessing that is Cindy, I could see and know that, like, for instance, my mother went from staying in the 4D period after she passed on to now as part of, with her higher self. She's merged back up into what we would call fifth density. And yet my dad is basically teaching on fourth density. My brother is still there as well. Both grandfathers are still there. They're literally just, I guess, waiting for me to finish this particular mission before, things are moving forward again, as we do tend to stay in the same soul families, soul groupings, not exclusively. Obviously that would be perhaps a little dull. We always want to add spice and interact with new people, new beings. And again, we can even go in and take a portal and come out in a different planet somewhere else if we truly, truly want to. The point I wanted to get across with here is the fact that there's so many consciousnesses, apparently individuated consciousnesses around us all the time. When you look to sperm and the egg, there's one egg, one lucky egg typically, gets fertilized. How many sperm make it to the egg? Well, they give us these numbers, approximately 200 to 250 million sperm in each ejaculation, but only about 2 million make it to the cervix. Once they're out of the 2 million sperm entering the cervix, only about 1 million make it to the uterus. Out of the 1 million that enter the uterus, only 10,000 are able to travel to the top of the organ. Out of the 10,000 that survive at this point, only half of them travel in the right direction, that is, towards the egg cell. Out of the approximately 5,000 sperm that enter the uteral tubal junction, about 1,000 get inside the fallopian tubes. Finally, out of the 1,000 that enter the tube, it's estimated that only 200 make it to the egg. However, in the end, only one sperm out of 200 that reach the egg is able to penetrate and fertilize it. That there is an analogy that tells you how precious life is on this density.
It does. And you look at those numbers once again and you go back to 12 generations of ancestors and all of those struggles, all of those love stories, all of those moments of happiness, and you put these numbers together, and you are very lucky to get here. Very lucky. It's a huge blessing. Yes, there are turmoils, there are heartbreaks, there's a lot that goes on, but within all of that, still a blessing remains. Period.
So a human life of however many years, the average at this point in the U.S. is like 76, and if it be 90 or 100, that's still nothing in the time span of eternity. Again, it just is a matter of perception. So if you really think, again, each one of these sperms as an individual unit of consciousness, then that's more than winning a lottery, or it is certainly winning a lottery, getting to come here and have an incarnation. And then when you think about it in the bigger spectrum of things, such as the timing of things astrologically, knowing, okay, well, I'm going to have to come in when Mars is conjunct with Jupiter in this house. And then, when you think about it in that terms of giving you the best opportunity to work on certain things, then you get an idea of just how much a blessing and how rare it is to come through at the right time to bring about the right learning and finding the right parents, the right genetic stock, the right DNA heritage for whatever it is you want to experience, the right star lineage. It's lotto. You won the lotto to get here.
I know there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of maybes, a lot of, things that could go right or perceived to go wrong.
So when we look at it from that perspective, and say we look at the Gnostic or what is given as a typical Gnostic point of view, that this is a realm of darkness to be escaped. And we just don't buy that. And again, not all Gnostics, thought that way either. And when we see, as you see, this was a accident, I want to say it was either Kentucky or Tennessee, in which a motorcyclist is actually seen. You could see, here, this is the spirit leaving the body. And this does feel like this one particular photo is legit. And, we don't need a photo to prove, it's something is legit to us, again, because we've had so many encounters with beings that are not embodied.
Well, it's very just, matter of fact at this point. It just is. So, but it is nice to have the photos for those who are not quite there. They might need that because we are grown up and we are learned in this science that they've given us. And for that to even help those wheels to turn, we need some type of proof that is going to mesh with our understanding and our belief system because it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. As you see this, body in a hospital here, and you see what looks to be the spirit kind of raising on up, and then ends up kind of moving on down. Again, I've personally have had 3 friends that were, you know, one of them was toe tag brought down to the morgue, and they just didn't stick her body in the morgue yet. Then when they went to stick her body in the morgue, they left her out in the hall. Then she revived and came back after 20 something minutes of being clinically dead. And it was a changed person with improved abilities to perceive things in other densities. So this is the reality, is that we walk through beings every single day. Beings walk through us every single day. You're never alone. Consciousness is everywhere. And it is actually a blessing to be here, because these experiences that we have when we're embodied, they are foundational. They're foundational. So I want to get that across. They are foundational to expanding your perceptions, expanding your possibilities, and expanding your abilities as what you are, which is creators in training.
A lot of emotions, and there's a lot of traumas that people go through. And sometimes people sit there and they're very angry and they're very frustrated and they're wanting out of this pain. But the universe gives us pain sometimes, a lot of times, especially if we are not moving forward, if we are not doing those things that we said or wanted to do when we came here. It's truly up to us. And the universe, whenever it gives us pain, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, which is very difficult to say. That is so, so difficult to say when you're going through it. It almost makes you angry, depending on that thing or that trauma that you're going through and you are dealing with. Those words are not, to me, when I'm going through my pain and my severe trauma, that's not the thing that I want to tell myself. But that's the thing that I know to be true deep inside. So I know it's up to me to find that place, to find that expansion, to expand myself out of that pain.
Absolutely. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever had a loss of somebody, and you might think of them, and then all of a sudden you feel chill. Well, again, often it's because you thought of them, they feel you, they come to be with you. Often they're consoling you. Often they're literally saying, "I'm right here." When we look to war and accidents and traumas, where it might take our consciousness time to realize what happened and to process the emotions in order to accept what happened and start to move on. I mean, it could take years, it could take decades, it could take human lifespans, entire human lifespans, centuries may pass before the spirit is ready to move on. As I brought up before, there are like Civil War battlefields that still have soldiers that are traumatized, that are still stuck. And unfortunately, this is what the system knows, and how the system utilizes everything about our world that we find ourselves in to keep these units of consciousness stuck, so they can be utilized in some way, shape, or form for the system. But the reality is still, even if we are ended up trapped, so to speak, stuck for thousands of years, it's still nothing in eternity. It really is nothing in eternity. And these experiences, even though they can be very, very traumatic, they give us fuel to fire new visions, new ideas, new possibilities.
It's really truly endless if we can work with ourselves and step through the traumas, because the one thing that holds so many back are the traumas. It's like we continue to do the same things day after day after day after day, and we don't expand out of that because we might be afraid, well, if I expand out of this, then another bad thing could happen to me, and I'm just not ready to go there yet. And many times that's where we need to be, but there is a time and point where the soul is going to push, and the soul is going to nudge and put you in situations where you have to face it because you're ready. Higher self really is the gatekeeper of when you are ready. And again, that's another thing I can go into denial over. It's like, no, I'm not ready for this. No, no, no. Well, here you go anyway. It's like pushing you in the cold lake. It's like, you're going to go, and you do it, and you start to look around. You're like, hey, the water's not so bad. I can do this. In fact, I'm having a good time. It's kind of like that.
Absolutely. So, again, we are never alone. There are always these consciousnesses around us. There are so many different beings. Like when you look at this, you might see all different sizes, different levels of brightness. Yes, there are elemental beings of a very, very foundational nature that simply take care of this environment that we explore, because the environment is for us. The reality is, again, we are consciousness itself. All these worlds have been created for us, and at a certain level, they're created by us in order so that later on down the line, we can create new worlds ourselves. It's said that this world was created by Vishnu, dreaming it into existence. In some of the Hindu scriptures. And absolutely so. How did Vishnu get to the point where he could dream this world into experience? He had experiences like we are having now. He had those. When we think about Lakshmi, who is the goddess of abundance and so many things, again, she has this amazing can-do positive energy to her. And it's something that we can't lose hold of, even though we might be in very, very dark times where it feels like everything is just falling apart and negative. There is abundance, even when there appears to be a great deal of lack. It just is that we might not be able to see it for what it is.
I know, being when we're hurting, when we're in a place of trauma, it is very difficult to be able to look up and see. I think a lot of people, once they are able to go out of their comfort zone and come back into the comfort zone, sometimes that's enough to wiggle the consciousness loose so that we are able to see further out there, and we can expand ourselves.
Absolutely. So each consciousness, in a way, is a universe, and that's the as above, so below, as within, so without. Because each consciousness is constantly creating these new possibilities in the mind. I remember often when I was a kid in school, hey, are you daydreaming again? I would get that from teachers a lot. Yeah, absolutely. But you're creating worlds when you do that. You are literally going through and creating possibilities. A lot of us have the ability to so lose ourselves in something else. And unfortunately, sometimes, fortunately, because I didn't get into a lot of accidents in my life, thank you, knock on wood, or, thank God for that. Yet I would often find myself somewhere else driving, because I'm thinking about something. Maybe I'm thinking about, how am I going to build this porch? How am I going to, redo this house? Could we possibly fit this in there? And my consciousness would be so in that place that I would look up and say, oops, my exit was 5 exits ago, Do you guys ever get that where you get so absorbed into something that you totally lose where your physical body's consciousness is? Well, again, that's not really a bad thing. In some ways, that can be actually a very, very good thing because you might have a amazing propensity to go very, very deep in meditation.
You're probably somewhere else and you're just, working things through, and it's the mind's way of bringing expansion. So everybody has their own way, although I would recommend you tap back into reality when you're driving as much as possible. But I can kind of understand that, you're driving, your body's doing this brainless thing. Your brain wants to go exploring, so it's going to. I mean, I've done that too. And having the windshield wipers on for, I don't know, a long time after the rain stopped. Yes.
Yeah, and in actuality, I don't like to play mantras when I'm driving because they automatically bring me into that zone. So I try to avoid that. And if I'm listening to something, it won't be, like Deva Premal and other mantras when we're driving because it's too dangerous because I'll shift my attention and shift my consciousness automatically because it's been kind of entrained in me throughout the years. So again, as we hear this talk of ascension, and we got to realize that we do descend. We do come down from what you might call a fifth density existence, which is one in which we still are individuals, but we have a greater sense of unity consciousness. And you will find different people with different thoughts on where these things exist. From what we've gotten, when you're starting to talk about 6D, you truly are talking about collectives. Collectives. That's where the individuals become very aware that they are primarily a part of a collective. You could equate it to, let's say, cells in your body all of a sudden realizing, well, we are all part of the liver. So to speak, or we are all part of the heart, but yet we are individual cells, but we are part of the heart, or we are part of the liver in the bigger body, so to speak. Well, again, it's the as above, so below. It is said that ye are gods because you are creating worlds all the time. And again, there are so many things living in your body that you are the entire universe to all these consciousnesses. And if you are feeling down or despair, they'll feel that. They'll be like, why is it such a gloomy day out? Why is it such, wow, the energy is just off today? And then if you are feeling happy and elated, they're feeling happy and elated. This is all part of that as above, so below. But when we come down, when consciousness descends through that, say, 5D gateway, so when you get to that 3D, 4D, which are really two sides of the same coin, we're either embodied, where we can have all new experiences and learn and grow from them, or you're in a state of processing and learning from the past embodiments and also thinking out possibilities. This is not to say that you can't explore in 4D. The 4D realms are loaded with all sorts of things to explore. It's like every single possibility exists in the 4D realm. Going back to, hey, what if we moved out of that school zone and I went to school over there? What if my parents didn't move to Nebraska? What if my parents did move to California? All these different possibilities and what your life would look like, you can run through it in 4D. And often we do. And many times we'll run through different possibilities in fourth density to see, what would happen. We run through these possible outcomes. What if I was paying attention, not changing the radio channel and didn't hit that pole? All these things that are always kind of in our subconsciousness, and you're wondering, shoot, I shouldn't have said that to my boss, or whatever it was. We get to play these things out. Now, 4D, as we've said before, and maybe you've caught this or haven't caught this, this is one of the things that has really stuck with me lately, is the fact that when you're consciously, lucidly dreaming, you will start to notice that it's not really real. And you could take control. And this is something that the guides told me back when I was a kid, back in third grade and again in fifth grade. At that point in time, I think the dark energies were still trying to get a hold of me and trying to mold me, because again, they could see us on 3D or 4D, and they see us hopping from 3D and 4D very much. They can't see us if you're up into that fifth density. Then you're out of their spectrum of visibility. But the guides told me, again, don't be afraid. And somebody had brought up sleep paralysis. And often sleep paralysis, it can be different things. There can be different causes. You can be jolted back to the body too quickly from a dream state, and your bodies literally might not align. The energy bodies with the physical body might not align properly. And you might have a little period of difficulty getting the physical body operating. It could actually be an entity trying to grab hold of you. That happens all the time. And trying to control you and trying to feed off you. That happens all the time. And so, I've seen people say you can only call on the name of Jesus to, get rid of. No, I've gotten rid of it just by saying go. And this is what the guides taught me going back to third and fifth grade. As I was being plagued back in those times by these dark energies. And they reiterated, the only power they have over you is controlling your fear. As soon as you show no fear, they will go away. Because source is in you. And many of these dark energies don't have source in them. They're constructs. These are thought forms that have been created and that will feed off of us. And while we do have source in us, we can tell them to go at any time, and they will go.
Definitely, never underestimate yourself. Never, ever, ever underestimate yourself, because you are from source. I mean, that is the ultimate power. That's standing in your power, knowing that you can do it yourself. Are there other energies that you can call on to assist you if you feel you need it? Absolutely. And I think it's a good thing to explore your belief system and find out, where are you in that belief system, and who are your helpers? I think one little thing that I've done for ages and ages is, if I lose something, I cannot find something, I call my finders. I ask, finders, I need help finding this. And so many times, I would say 8 or 9 times out of 10, after I call them, I'll turn around and there that thing is, because they can even, there's these little entities that can actually sit on things and they can make them disappear. You cannot see them. Once you call on your finders, they can remove this entity and then you can see it. How many times have you guys been looking for your keys, walked past the table, and you didn't see it for like 100 times, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's there? There's a lot of energies at work here.
Absolutely. And so when we're in 4D, and it, again, this is finally going back to that original thought about the descent of Anana. When you're in 4D, food doesn't have a taste because it isn't real. And, this is again where we can see from different belief systems that, there's a lot of the controllers in play. Like when you're promised certain things and in this heaven and that heaven, sure, these are all things that you can manifest, but it's really only in 3D that you actually get to taste what food tastes like. Everything is an illusion, so to speak, in 4D. And I've noticed that, and again, it's through writing down in a dream journal and keeping track of your dreams. That's the first place to do it. And have a pen and a little journal right by your bed. As soon as you wake up, write them down. I did that as a little kid. And then I found that I'm able to remember dreams like decades later, and it's as clear as can be. And I was just reading to Cindy like some dreams that I had like 5 years ago. And, again, often there are little nuggets foreshadowing possibly some events coming, but also giving us a deeper understanding of our own emotions. And do not underestimate emotions. Emotions are powerful things. Emotions go from 3, 4, 5D. They are us. Yeah, we are our emotions, and our emotions are the dial in which we are tuning in our frequencies. So again, it's interesting how in this world, in the system that we find ourselves in, there's so much stress put on logic and logical thinking. Well, we need to search our feelings more. We need to feel into a situation, because when we're feeling into things, then we are tapping into other densities.
You know, so many times somebody might hurt themselves or get a cut or get a scratch or get a wound, and they just want to patch up that one little spot and call it good and move forward. But what is it in your realm? What happened with your energy that allowed that thing to happen? Because we all create our own surroundings. I mean, we are totally in charge of everything that happens to us and around us. So it really can be quite mind-boggling if you're going to go back and try to figure out, well, what caused every single scratch, what caused every owie, what caused, every issue that I've ever had. Yeah, I mean, you can really get stuck down many, many rabbit holes. But I think the overarching belief that we need to find in ourselves is the belief and the understanding that, yes, somehow we created it. How important is it that we find that out? Well, it's up to you. You're the one who decides that.
Absolutely. As we are co-creating our reality. So it just struck a chord with me looking at this, because I was thinking about doing a video, and we will do a video talking about these individual gods and goddesses a little deeper, as they do have very distinct personalities, and they are distinct beings, as there is this tendency to put them all together. But Anana, in her descent, goes down into the realm in which food has no flavor and food just disappears. And, all those things that we have in life, like the opportunity to hold somebody's hand and to really feel it in your hand, that's a blessing on this density. We can manifest all sorts of things almost instantaneously in the other densities, including fourth density. And things do take time here, but at the same time, things have substance here. And while that can be a challenge, it is also a blessing.
I just have to say really quick too, and we'll let you guys go. I hear a lot of talk about, 3D versus 5D and how to get yourself to that 5D line of thinking, and something as, something being less and something being more, and something being a bad and something being a good. But I feel that the 3D experiences are equally as important as the 5D experiences. Where 3D is such a blessing, because when can you taste tiramisu, almost any time you want, just by going out to the store? When can you have that mouth-watering plate of your favorite thing anywhere? It's in 3D. So never think that you're in a bad spot over another spot. Never think of yourself as any less, because both experiences are equally as spiritual.
Absolutely. In the bigger scheme of things, too, human lifespans are over in the blink of an eye compared to the reality that the consciousness itself finds its in. And this is fuel to create new worlds for ourselves in the future. As always, Source bless. Namaste.
Namaste.